Thank you. And first, I want to say I'm honored that you invite me to your little corner. It might be a little big or whatever corner. It's a beautiful corner. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Um, as you said, I'm Rachel, and maybe people know me because of Neurolanguage Coaching, which is something that about 13 years ago I sat and crystallized into a concept, approach, method, whatever people want to call it. But it very nicely resonates with your word pedagogy.
Yes.
So it really is about changing the way that we teach, train, educate, coach, whatever we call it. It's
Mhm.
changing that style and the way that we communicate with our learner.
Wow. That's a big title there. That's a good one. And it's amazing what you actually know, what you actually do for all the teachers and everyone around. I can see that says Accredited Educational and Language Coaching Academy, right? That's the name, right?
Yeah. Well, in that perspective, we have many courses that then help language educators or normal teachers, maybe maths, physics, whatever,
Okay.
to really come into this new way of pedagogy, this new way of teaching, this new style of coaching in education. And this academy is the, let's say, the hub from which all of these courses are then delivered. Yes.
Mm. What is that style? I'm sorry.
So we have neurolanguage coaching for the language educators, and then
Yeah.
for all other teachers, we call it neuro heart education and becoming a neuro heart educational coach.
Oh, what is exactly the neural heart that?
Neuroheart is, again, it's the umbrella term for everything that we do because we're really connecting the neuro, the emotional intelligence, the metacognition together with the empathy, the compassion, the heart. And we're bringing all of that into the way that we communicate, the way that we teach. It
Of
totally
mm.
changes.
That sounds really interesting there. Well, I remember you told me that you were in Peru, right? You were doing
I
some
was a
work
couple of
related to
weeks
it,
ago.
right?
That's right. So I actually do deliver workshops, training to teachers across the world. And sometimes I do actually do in-house. So I go to schools, talk to teachers. And when I was in Peru, it was a beautiful organizer, Juan Valenzuela, and his training organization that invited me to then go and do workshops and deliver speeches or talks, or I'm even going to say this sort of consulting schools, teachers, directors, coordinators, because I think if we're, and this is what I hear all across the world, learners have changed. We've all changed. Since the pandemic, there is a lot of fallout, a lot of scars that we're not talking about enough, Mike. And teachers are suffering, parents are suffering, children are suffering, directors of schools are suffering. And instead of all of us suffering together and blaming each other, what we need to do is say, okay, this is where we are, this is where we come from. Now, what are the solutions?
Exactly.
And that's where we need to focus much, much more than we are at the moment, because at the moment we've got a blame game going on. Teachers blame parents, parents blame teachers, teachers blame children, children.
It's the whole blaming game there. Instead of bringing positivity and try to find a solution in
Exactly,
a better way.
exactly, exactly. Because at the end of the day, the ones that really suffer are the kids or the
Exactly. Yeah.
learners.
You said it. Yeah. Amen to that. Exactly. And that's one of the biggest things that we have here. I mean, that's our biggest goal, kids, to have better students, better people. Actually, when they grow up, they're going to be even better. I mean, that's what we want, better people in the end.
And these new generations, they're different. And they're going to be different. And we have to move away from this we know best syndrome into, well, actually, we don't know because we're moving into a territory on Earth that we've never
Yeah,
been to before. We've never lived with AI. We've never lived with the technology that's coming in. We've never lived with so much uncertainty.
True.
So many wars. I mean, we're literally now, I think all of us are, oh my goodness, what on
What's going to
earth?
happen? Yeah,
That's right. And this uncertainty is very unsettling. And obviously, teachers don't know how to handle that. And it's about how we now help these new generations to cope. But it's also about how we help teachers at the moment to cope
exactly. Yeah, giving
and
the tool.
parents.
Yeah.
That's
The thing
right.
is that
That's
I
right.
think this is like a triangle, right? I mean, if we actually help one, the other one will help the other one. I mean, it's gonna be like a cycle, sort of like a triangle cycle. I don't know, like we have students, we have teachers and parents. I mean, if we actually
Exactly.
give the tools to the teacher, that
Yeah.
actually will pass through the kid through
Yeah.
the students, and then it goes to the parents. There's gonna be a connection there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're a beautiful example of that as you're talking. In the UK, some schools have brought out meditation for kiddies. And there was one program, very famous program called Panorama, which is like a documentary. And they were actually talking with these little kiddies that were doing meditation at school and telling them, asking how is it going and what's happening. And one little kiddie, I think she was about 4 or 5, she said that she actually was telling her mummy to go and meditate when she was stressed.
Oh,
How amazing
wow.
that kiddies are
Yeah.
going home and saying, Mummy, Mummy, you need to go and meditate.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's
New
beautiful.
generation.
Yes. Well, that's one of the best things actually to have this generational. Maybe sometimes we actually judge this generation too much in a negative way. I think they
We
also have
do.
their positive. For example, this one, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, having the kid just trying to help
Yeah.
one way or another. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
And
positivity.
definitely, absolutely. And knowing more about the brain actually does help us to bring in the shift.
Hmm.
Because when we understand that every single brain on earth has a different makeup, a different composition. So your genetic part, my genetic part, is totally different to anybody else on earth. And what you have lived, learned, experienced, etc., and put in there, totally different to anybody else on earth. Therefore, as an educator, as a parent, as a human being, I have to understand that your perspective of life, the way that you interpret, the way that you understand, is going to be totally different to mine.
True.
So, how can I go into that curiosity and say, okay, Mike, how do you see the world?
Hmm. Exactly.
Instead of saying, no, this is how it should be. This is how I see it. So, therefore, you should.
Well,
No,
that actually also shows a little bit of lack of tolerance there, right? There's no tolerance actually.
absolutely. Absolutely. But lack of, I would say, ignorance of the brain and ignorance
Mm,
that, yes, we are all different and we are all beautiful human beings with our own experience. So, how can
exactly.
we honor each other's experience?
Let's start by being tolerant and let's accept that the other one has a different opinion, different perspective of the world, maybe. That would
Absolutely.
be, well, that's a beautiful work that you're actually doing there. And I love it. It's just spreading positivity. I love it. Spreading
Yeah.
positivity is the best thing. So now if we actually just take this part and let's focus a little bit more in the philosophical part or more like neuro neurolinguistic. Let's go to that part. What is the biggest lie we've been told about language learning?
Oh, to only use the native language, to never use the native language in the classroom. Do you know,
Okay.
I think it's interesting because I think this does stem back from Mr. Berlitz.
Mm,
And on the one side, Mr. Berlitz, I think we have to say thank you because he was one of the first to really create franchise of language learning and schools and bring that concept out to the world in the late 1800s. And in some ways, he was right that no native in the classroom could potentially speed up the learning. But what it can also do is cause fight, flight, shutdown.
mm,
So it can have a very polarized impact. Now, on the
How?
other side, well, I've been to a German, when I lived in Germany, I went to one of these famous Hochschule. I don't know if I say it precisely well or not, um, where they literally, you go into these classes and they do not speak anything but German. I went to one class and never went back because I couldn't understand. Nobody explained. I didn't have any idea. Therefore, I was sitting there feeling embarrassed,
Mhm.
ashamed, shut down, and
Oops.
therefore never went back.
Okay.
So we know from the research now, 2016, we have research from the University of Nijmegen. Again, it's a pronunciation that
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's
hopefully,
okay.
hopefully I got it right.
Well,
In
I
Holland.
will never know. I don't know.
Well, your
Yeah,
Dutch
yeah, yeah, yeah,
viewers
yeah,
will
yeah,
write
yeah,
and say
maybe.
Rachel
Exactly.
yes or Rachel no. Um, this particular university, they were teaching people a language that they made up called alienese.
Oh,
And this language was composed of that were similar to the native, were exactly the same as the native, things that were totally different to the native from other languages, and things that were totally made up,
mm,
non-existent language. And what they saw is the first time that we saw that our brain, when we're learning a new language, actually is going to the mother tongue characteristics of the grammar and the language to try to scaffold.
yes.
So
Mm,
we have the proof that actually we do try to connect into other languages. And I personally, that's how I went from French and Latin to Spanish, no lessons in Spanish, to Catalan, no lessons in Catalan, to Italian, no lessons in Italian, to
mm,
German, no lessons, well, a few lessons in German, as you can hear, that I walked out of.
yeah.
But my brain was connecting and living in the countries as well. But I know from my own experience that's how I learned.
Mm, well, that's actually a really good perspective there on how you learn the language. Uh, well, definitely, and this is actually bring me a little bit to what you just say initially. Every person is different. Every person have a different perspective, or now we're actually just going to this land of multiple intelligences maybe, or multiple learning ways, or all that different learning strategies and all that.
Yes.
Definitely. So why is learning a language not just cognitive process, but an identity process?
Oh, and this is such a beautiful question. And I know that you've lived and you are living in different countries. And I think
Yes.
those of us who have been to the countries and we've experienced that connection of not only the language, but also living with the people immersed in the culture, it
Immersion. Yeah.
really is. It is so connected. And again, we know from the research that yes, we do seem to take on different personalities, different personas when we are immersed in language and culture. And I know I myself, even though I'm born and bred in Britain, I would classify myself as a very Latin personality. Absolutely.
That's the
Absolutely.
personality.
Absolutely. But I know as soon as I go to Italy, I'll start with my
The hand
gestures,
gestures. Yeah.
the hands and the
Have you ever been to Argentina?
I have
Well,
Buenos
they also have the
Aires.
gestures
Yes,
there.
yes, the Italian side of Argentina. Argentina is such a beautiful
Mm,
mix of Spanish, American, Italian.
Italians, yeah.
There's colonies of Germans in Argentina. That really Argentina is this beautiful cultural
Mixed,
mix, which
yes.
is fiery. It's alive. It's
Even when they
brilliant.
speak, right? They have that Italian in the back, like that accent. It's like,
Yes,
¿qué me estás
yes.
diciendo, viste?
Yeah, yeah, viste, che,
¿Viste?
beautiful.
So,
But isn't it, when you and I know that language is not just about producing words,
mhm,
it's about connecting with people. And when we help people to learn a language on that human connection level, And from the brain's perspective, the brain loves real and personal. So the more that we can connect people into language from that perspective, the better they learn.
Hmm. Connection. Yeah.
It's
Totally agree with
connection.
that. Yeah. And this is something that I was actually talking to another teacher. I was actually having him here on the show as well. John Freeman, he's a speaking coach, speaking confident coach, and he was talking about this too as well. It's very important, to create that connection and making them feel like
Yeah.
they're being heard, not
Yeah.
judged.
Yeah.
So that's another one. That's the emotional part. So sometimes I've actually heard and seen students like trying to learn a lot of words, and they
Yeah.
learn thousands. I had a student actually who's like, "Don't worry, Mike, I can learn many. I can learn 3,000 words for tomorrow."
Huh.
Wow. But then they still feel unable to speak.
Yeah.
Why that happen? Do you have any experience or idea about it?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is Kolb's learning cycle. Professor Kolb with this beautiful sort of learning cycle when you kind of got the new concept, then you have to get it into abstract, then you have to get it into the sort of discovery of what is it, but then you have to contextualize it and you have to use it.
Yeah,
You have to integrate it and apply it. And that's the missing step. So we can learn vocabulary lists, but if we don't know how to put it into context, bring in the emotion, bring in the contextual feeling behind it, and also produce it in that context, it remains like an outlier in our brain. And it's not connected in to the other connections.
true.
Years of traditional teaching can actually leave a student feeling stuck and with minimal confidence.
Personally, I had come from years of traditional classes and was stagnating. My confidence had collapsed. I saw it as an impossible challenge. Now, I see a new world of possibilities, beyond English, both professionally and personally.
Help your learners rebuild their confidence and know that nothing is impossible.
True. So
So
that
there, we need to get them using it, contextualizing it, playing with it. Brilliant that you've learned this word. Now, how can we use it?
exactly. No, no, I totally agree with that. But I don't understand why certain schools, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but why certain school they're still pushing this type of a narrative. You gotta learn a word. It doesn't matter if you can actually use it or not. Keep doing it.
Yes.
That's the way to
Yeah.
perfection.
Yeah. Well, I would turn around to this school nowadays and I would say, well, actually, yes, I can learn 2,000 words in a day. And then I would go into patterning and I would say, okay, so let's imagine my learner is learning Spanish.
Yeah.
We could go to all of the words that end in Tion, Sion, Gion, and there we've got instant vocabulary. Education, educación.
Hmm.
Preparation, preparación. Organization, organización.
Hmm.
And by the way, we could make the same list in French, Italian,
In Italian, yeah.
Portuguese. We could even
Portuguese.
go to the Slav languages, edukacja, preparacja, organizacja.
Uh, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Even in Russian. Yeah.
uh, right. So we could
Edukacja. Yeah.
really look for the patterns. Then we can go to the adjectives and say, well, okay, what are the adjective endings that are the same? Magnificent, magnifico. Um, ominous, ominoso.
Hmm.
Um, we could go to demonstrative, demonstrativo,
Demonstrativo.
attractive, attractivo. We could make an endless list of
List.
vocabulary that actually will be effortless for the brain.
Hmm.
Now, there, you're in a country, for example, China, Arabic, Japanese, where maybe we need to find if there's any other patterns. But there, I think it's more about your sounds. I don't know if there's some
Tone.
words that
The
are the
tone.
tones exactly. I don't know if there are patterns of sounds that can be matched, that then you have similar, they can lead you into different. In Arabic, you've got the root of the word. And from
Yeah,
the root, then you start playing with the words.
exactly.
So I think it's about understanding. It's not about vocabulary lists. It's about patterning, connecting, and then playing with the language.
Yeah, agree, agree. And that's why I also tell students, I'm gonna start making a class. When I tell my university level students, like, you know what, I'm gonna just start bringing all the games that I have with my kindergarteners, and I'm gonna start playing with you guys like this.
Yeah,
No, how
yeah,
is it possible? No, it cannot. Why not?
yeah,
I will
yeah,
definitely make you speak if you actually just join the game. For sure they will.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Mike, let's be honest here. It's only been in the last 200 years that we've had institutionalized language learning.
Mhm.
They didn't learn languages on the Silk Road. They didn't have a grammar book. Or the
True.
Romans when they conquered the earth, or Christopher Columbus when he went wherever he went. They didn't walk in there with a grammar book saying, "Let me just have a look at my grammar book." No, and we've forgotten with institutionalized language learning in schools and systems. We've forgotten how we learned the language as a child,
True.
which is subconsciously implicit learning. And if we could bring implicit together with explicit, like the grammar and the theory, and
Yeah.
bring them together, that's when you've got what I call la bomba. Because you can really learn a
Yes.
language with an immersion plus the grammar and the theory. You can learn a language in 1 year.
True. Well, depending on the language, maybe, or all the
Depending
language.
on the language, depending how much effort and how much you're
Mm,
exposing the brain to that language, if you're
true.
bombarding that language 24/7, living there, and you're hearing it on the TV, the metro, the everywhere you
Everywhere.
go. Plus, you're doing the grammar, the work, the focus work as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I'm not the best example for that because I've been trying to speak Chinese pretty well, but I think I failed a little bit. I'm immersed in it, but no, it's still hard. It's still, I mean,
Yeah.
these tonal languages are crazy, amazingly crazy, because it's
And
actually just for a little bit, just a little movement wrong, and then the whole thing changes.
yeah,
No, it's very, very
yeah,
hard, I would say. I think
yeah,
it's easier, these type of languages, like the Latin roots languages, maybe.
absolutely. Absolutely. And because we've grown up to that.
Hmm.
So our brain is used to that. So what you're doing is now normalizing and getting your brain used to something totally different,
True.
totally different. And yes, no, I admire you. And it's one day I would really love to come into it. I've played a little bit. I've had a few sessions with Chinese, but not enough yet to really get immersed. But the interesting thing as well, I don't know if you've heard of the tomatis method.
No,
Tomatis, Tomatis. And they
tomates,
work a lot
like tomato in Spanish.
like tomato, but is on the end.
Oh, gotcha.
Tomatis. And they work a lot with children that have problems with audio or children that have issues. And one tip to help hear is the exercise of going from very high to very low pitch very quickly. High, low, high, low, high, low. There are some
Mm.
videos on YouTube that you can find that do that. And that seems to train the ear
Oh,
into perceiving sound.
tones in
So
this
maybe
case. Mm.
maybe you try it out and you let us know if it works.
Okay, I will do it. Shoot, I'm gonna
You be
just
our
write
guinea
it down
pig.
here. Then let me take a note right now because I will do it
Yes.
definitely. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's one of actually the most challenging things in
Yeah.
this language. But
Yeah.
now moving on a little bit in that same area, from the neuroscience perspective, what role does the amygdala play in a language learning?
Ooh. what role does the amygdala play in our lives? I think this is
Yeah.
the key.
Well, yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting because, and obviously we're talking about the amygdala in the brain because the Spanish, French, and the Italians have the amygdala here as well.
Yes, the
Now,
amygdalas. Yes.
I remember being in Peru talking about the amygdala, and this little old man in the audience says, "This here?" And I'm saying, "No, in the brain." Yeah. So it's interesting. I always like to think of it a little bit like our internal panic button. It's the button that the brain kind of arouses to then explore whether we need to set off the alarm or not. And in very simple terms, if we are perceiving a threat, the thalamus is our radar. If that is coming in as a threat,
Mhm.
potential threat, the amygdala becomes aroused, and the amygdala then, together with the hippocampus, they're sort of checking, is this something we know about? This is in milliseconds. I'm exaggerating here.
Yeah.
Is this a known threat? Should we do something about it or not? So then, if the real question is yes, the alarm is sounded in the brainstem. The brainstem then is alerted and then gives off this body response: fight, fright, freeze. Plus, you get the hypothalamus releasing then the adrenaline, the cortisol, so that we can run or fight. Now, the interesting thing is that the amygdala is the tripper, the panic button that's then initiating that. But it could also go into reward. So the amygdala is also detecting reward. But again,
Exactly.
you might have that same sort of, I'm going to say, overjoyed reaction. Let me give you an example of a little kiddie going to the fun fair, like,
Yes.
and you can't do anything with the kid because it's like
Yeah.
overexcitement. So we always think of the amygdala as the negative sort of threat response, but it's also reward kind of kicking in as well, and the extreme pleasure response as well. But in language learning, if we have a learner going into fight or flight, the two key areas for learning, prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, they start to become depleted of resources. And if we put it in very simple terms, the survival brain kicks in, the rational logical brain kicks out.
Mm.
So if we've got a learner in that state, they can't learn, or they can't learn well, or they can't produce, or it's that stuttering, or I can't find the word, or I'm totally blocked. It's
Mm.
that sort of feeling.
Yeah,
And when we're under pressure, that is literally what happens.
definitely. So maybe this is the very good explanation of why adults learn differently than children.
Well,
Or faster.
well, I would firstly distinguish out, separate out. Kiddies we learn through implicit learning because
Mhm.
the prefrontal cortex doesn't start to develop until after the age of 7 or 8. And yes, we take a long time to learn our native language. It takes us maybe 5 years to fully speak and learn our native language. But if you go into the classroom where we're only learning with the books, actually, I came out of school after 8 years of French and I couldn't speak.
Okay.
So I think the problem is too much explicit
Mhm.
or too much implicit. And
Implicit.
then if you've only got one or the other, that's why it takes so long either way. But if on top you've got a learner who is blocked, of course they're not going to learn.
Mm.
So there
So,
has to be the balance, explicit, implicit, and there has to be a calm, happy, relaxed brain, open to receive and play and engage with the language.
so this is actually talks about emotional intelligence as well, or um,
Yeah.
how much of emotional can a person can get if fails learning or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's about us as trainers, coaches, educators, becoming much more sensitive to how is my learner feeling?
Mm.
What's going on with my learner? What state is my learner in? And if my learner is in a panicked, frozen state or fight or flight state, how do I get my learner back into a perfect learning